Alright, so in this problem, I have x minus 4 to the power 4 is equal to x to the power 4. So to solve this, I'm going to first rewrite 4 here as 2 times 2. So now I have x minus 4 to the power of 2 times 2 is equal to x to the power 4. Now if I have something in the form a to the power of m times n, this is equal to a to the power of m to the power of n. So in this case, I have a to the power of 2 times 2, so I can rewrite this as x minus 4 to the power of 2 to the power of 2. And this is equal to x to the power 4. Now I'm going to subtract x to the power 4 on both sides. So now I have x minus 4 squared to the power of 2 minus x to the power 4 is equal to 0. And x to the power 4, I'm going to rewrite this as the same thing. X to the power of 2 to the power of 2. Now, if I have something in the form a squared minus b squared, this is equal to a plus b times a minus b. So in this case, a is x minus 4 squared, and b is x squared. So now I have x minus 4 squared plus x squared times x minus 4 squared minus x squared. And x minus 4 squared, that's simply equal to x squared minus 8x plus 16. So I have this plus x squared, and over here I have x squared minus 8x plus 16 minus x squared. So in this case, these two cancel out, and in this case, these two add up. So I have 2x squared minus 8x plus 16 times negative 8x plus 16. Remember, this is all equal to 0. So this gives me two equations. I have 2x squared minus 8x plus 16 is equal to 0, and I have negative 8x plus 16 is equal to 0. So for negative 8x plus 16 equals 0, I add x on both sides, so I get 16 is equal to 8x, meaning x is equal to 2. Now for 2x squared minus 8x plus 16 is equal to 0, I'm going to divide both sides by 2, so I get x squared minus 4x plus 8 is equal to 0. So now to find the value of this equation, I have to use the quadratic formula, which I'm not going to waste your guys' time by doing, but if you end up solving it, you get x is equal to 4 plus or minus, you get x is equal to 2 plus or minus 2i. So that's two more solutions. So these are my three solutions to this problem. Alright, so in this problem, I have 3 to the power of x times 5 to the power of x squared is equal to 15. So now the first thing I'm going to do is divide both sides by 5. So now I have 3 to the power of x times 5 to the power of x squared over 5 is equal to 15 divided by 5, which is 3. Now if I have something in the form a to the power of m over a to the power of n, this is equal to a to the power of m minus n. So in this case, 5 is the same thing as 5 to the power of 1, and 5 to the power of x squared over 5 to the power of 1, that's going to equal 5 to the power of x squared minus 1, which is equal to 3. And now I'm going to divide both sides by 3 to the power of x. So then these two cancel out, and 3 to the power of 1 over 3 to the power of x, that's the same thing as 3 to the power of 1 minus x. Now, if I take the log on both sides, I get log 5 to the power of x squared minus 1 is equal to log 3 to the power of 1 minus x. And if I have something in the form log a to the power of b, I can actually move this exponent b to the front. So this can equal b times log a. So in this case, I have x squared minus 1 times log 5 is equal to 1 minus x times log 3. Now, if I divide both sides by log 5, I get x squared minus 1 times log base 5 of 5 is equal to 1 minus x times log base 5 of 3. So if you divide two logarithms, the logarithm that's being divided by, that's going to turn into the base. Now log base of 5, that's obviously equal to 1. So now I have x squared minus 1 is equal to 1 minus x times log base 5 of 3. And now if I subtract 1 minus x times log base 5 of 3 on both sides, these two cancel out, and I get x squared minus 1 minus 1 minus x times log base 5 of 3 is equal to 0. And now x squared minus 1, this is the same thing as x squared minus 1 squared, which is the same thing as x plus 1 times x minus 1. So I have this minus 1 minus x times log base 5 of 3 is equal to 0. And now if I factor out x minus 1, I get x minus 1 times x plus 1 plus log base 5 of 3 is equal to 0. So now this gives me two equations. I have x minus 1 equals 0, meaning x is equal to 1, and I have x plus 1 plus log base 5 of 3 is equal to 0, which means that x is equal to -1 minus log base 5 of 3. So these are my two solutions. Alright, so in this problem, I have x to the power of 4 minus 16 is equal to 0. So what I'm first going to do is I'm going to rewrite x to the power of 4 as x to the power of 2 times 2. And if I have something in the form a to the power of m times n, this is equal to a to the power of m to the power of n. So x to the power of 2 times 2, that's going to equal x to the power of 2 to the power of 2. Now I have this minus 16, which is the same thing as 4 to the power of 2, is equal to 0. Now if I have something in the form a squared minus b squared, this is equal to a plus b times a minus b. So in this case, a is x squared and b is 4. So I have x squared plus 4 times x squared minus 4 is equal to 0. So now this gives me two equations. I have x squared plus 4 is equal to 0, and I have x squared minus 4 is equal to 0. So for x squared minus 4 equals 0, I'm going to write 4 here as 2 squared. So now I have x squared minus 2 squared is equal to 0. Now remember that if we have something in the form a squared minus b squared, this is equal to a plus b times a minus b. And in this case, a is equal to x and b is equal to 2. So I have x plus 2 times x minus 2 is equal to 0. So now this, again, gives me two equations. I have x plus 2 equals 0, and I have x minus 2 equals 0. So for x plus 2 equals 0, x equals -2, and for x minus 2 equals 0, x equals +2. So these are two solutions of x. Now for x squared plus 4 equals 0, I'm going to subtract 4 on both sides. These two cancel out, and I have x squared is equal to -4. Now I'm going to take the square root on both sides. Square root of x squared is x, and the square root of -4, that's the same thing as square root of 4 times the square root of -1. The square root of 4 is 2, and if you guys already know, the square root of -1 is I. So I have x is equal to positive or -2i. So these are another two solutions.